Hey, welcome back my friends to the show that never ends. Today we're looking at my rankings of the 1970s Genesis albums from 8 through to number 1. My personal view, feel free to disagree, leave comments below of what you think is good or bad. Here we go. At number 8, and then there were 3. A strange album that heralded Genesis becoming a trio. From here it became more pop orientated, but this was definitely a crossover album. It's lowly rated because it was one that I didn't thoroughly enjoy. Tracks are down and out. That wasn't bad because that was a big start. What were people going to be expecting? Undertow, Ballad of Big, okay. Favourite on the first side, Snowbound, I did like that Mike Rutherford special. Burning Rope ended the first side. Second side, Deep in the Mother Lode, Many Too Many, a bit weak. Scenes from a Night's Dream, okay. Say It's Alright Joe. The Lady Lies, that was a Banks composition, okay. And then Follow You, Follow Me. I've done a separate review on it. I'll leave a link to it in the cards above. Not a great album. They did the best. It was too much, neither one thing nor the other. Best track for me was certainly Snowbound, Mike Rutherford's. That's a lovely, lovely song. We'll pass on Follow You, Follow Me. Bit slushy. Didn't really like it. Number 8, and then there were 3. At number 7 we have Trespass, the 1970s second album from Genesis, following the abomination that was From Genesis to Revelation that Jonathan King was so heavily involved in. This one, there's no Steve Hackett, there's no Phil Collins. What you did have was a session drummer called John Mayhew who quit after this particular album was recorded, and you had Anthony Phillips in there. Anthony Phillips went on to have a very successful solo career, but left the band because he was struggling with stage fright. 6 tracks on it, some really good stuff here. Looking for Someone, Peter Gabriel composition here. White Mountain is a favourite of mine. This one's written by Tony Banks. This is the best one on the album for me. Anthony Phillips chipped in with Visions of Angels. That's a nice track. On side 2 kicks off with Stagnation. Then we have Dusk, and it ends up with a Gabriel Phillips composition called The Knife. This one continued to be played in the live concerts right the way through to the very end of the career of Genesis. Top track for me is White Mountain, and we can pass on Dusk as far as I'm concerned. At number 6 from 1971, the album is Nursery Cryme. This was the start of what we would call the settled Genesis pattern up until the end of the decade. Phil Collins is in, Steve Hackett is in. It made all the difference to me. Starts off with an absolute monster, The Musical Box, one of Gabriel's absolute spectaculars. For Absent Friends follows. Return of the Giant Hogweed's a good track, I quite like that one. Side 2 we've got 7 Stones. Then we go to Harold the Barrel, the humorous track. We then go to Harlequin and end up with Fountain of Salmacis. Now Fountain of Salmacis is for me the standout on the album. I absolutely love this one. You can feel Steve Hackett's involvement into the production and to the writing of this. It's a beautiful, beautiful song. So that's the top one for me. We'll pass on Harlequin. Didn't really like that one too much. So number 6, Nursery Cryme. At number 6 from 1976 we have A Trick of the Tail. This was a album in as much as Gabriel's just departed. Phil Collins has taken over the vocals after lots of searching for people to come in and do the singing. Phil decides to get it done. It's a really smart album. I like this one, and on another day this could be a lot higher in the rankings. Kicks off with a monster track, Dance on a Volcano. If you were under any doubt of what the band would sound like after losing Peter Gabriel, then make no mistake, this was a big track to kick off with, Dance on a Volcano. We then go to Hackett Banks' composition Entangle. It's a beautiful, beautiful song. Squonk follows, and the first side ends up with Mad Man Moon. Over onto side 2, we have the humorous song again, Robbery, Assault and Battery, with Phil and his Mockney accents. It then goes into Ripples. That's a nice track. A Trick of the Tail, the title track, is then, before we end with Los Endos, which has been adapted to become a firm concert favourite. Love this album. As I say, on another day it would be much higher for me. Dance on a Volcano is the best track because it is so significant in the development of the band and how it portrayed itself after Peter had left. I don't think there's any weak tracks that I'd like to boot out. So Dance on a Volcano is a big thumbs up. No poor tracks on it at this time. So number 5, A Trick of the Tail. At number 4, from 1974, we have The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. Now this might surprise a few people why it's quite low in the rankings, but it was a beautiful album. It became quite a conceptual album, and in many ways, because of the influence within this album it was the straw that broke the camel's back, that pushed it too far and really forced Peter to leave the band. It is an incredible album, and it is one of the greats that you'd rank it in the top 10 in anybody's list of brilliant albums of the 1970s. That kicks off with The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. Tony Banks' brilliant pianos going on there. Fly on a Windshield. Broadway Melody of 74, I love that one. Cuckoo Cocoon. In the Cage. And then in the Grand Parade of Lifeless Packaging. We then go to side 2 back in New York City with Gabriel's piercing lyrics all the way through that song. Hairless Hearts, the instrumental. Counting Out Time. Another humorous song. Carpet Crawlers, and then The Chamber of 32 Doors, and that ends off the first disc. Side 3, Lily White Lilith, I like that one. That was a group effort. The Waiting Room is all strange noises and crashes and bangs. Didn't like that one. We then go into Anyway. Here Comes the Supernatural Anaesthetist. The Lamia and Silent Sorrow in Empty Boats. And then we end with Colony of Slipperman Suite. Ravine. The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, the reprise version. Riding the Scree. In the Rapids. And it the end to top it all off. It's an album that I like. It's an album that I can listen to frequently, but for me it just has that stigma about it. It was the album, and it was the tour that broke the band, so it will never get top ranking for me. Favourite tune, In the Cage, without a shadow of a doubt, an absolute standout tune. And then, as I say, The Waiting Room, I can do without all those crashes and bangs. Not quite sure where it was all going. It did develop into a nice guitar piece towards the end, but I think we can get rid of that one. At number 3 from 1976 also, we have Wind and Wuthering, an album that's got a lot of sentiment to it because it was the last one that Steve Hackett did with the band. His ideas were getting squeezed and he found it very difficult to get his tunes onto the albums. So he decided that following the success of Voyage of the Acolyte, he would pursue a solo career. And for me, the loss of Steve was quite significant in its altering the dynamics of the band. And we kick off with 11th Earl of Mar. Good vocals there from Collins. One for the Vine is one I like very much. Your Own Special Way, it's okay. What Gorilla, quite like that one as an instrumental. Phil very strong on the drums there. Side 2, All in a Mouse's Night, I like that. Blood on the Rooftops, Unquiet Slumbers for the Sleepers, In the Quiet Earth. There's that lovely sort of 12-13 minute piece where those interlink, and it's a really, really nice section before we end with the magnificent Afterglow. For me, One for the Vine would be my pick of the album. I like that one. If I was to get rid of one, it would be Your Own Special Way. That's one that I feel just drags on a little bit. It's okay, but it drags on a little bit. So at number 3 from 1976, Wind and Wuthering. At number 2 from 1972, we have the album that is called Foxtrot. Wow, what an album. We all know about side 2. We know that it's 2 songs long. We know that it's acoustic guitar solo by Steve Hackett called Horizons. And then we have 23 minutes and 6 seconds of one of the masterpieces of modern progressive rock in Supper's Ready. Supper's Ready has been commented on and reviewed by much better people than myself. I'm not going to get involved with that one. I know that it's a fantastic tune, and it's one that I absolutely love hearing and seeing performed, particularly when I go to see Steve Hackett, who does a very, very good rendition of it. But there are other tracks on the album that goes to make it up. It kicks off with Watcher of the Skies. It's got a magnificent opening. The mellotron sound, that building up of the expectation, Peter Gabriel coming on, looking through his telescope, in that avant-garde costume. Timetable next. That's okay. Get them out by Friday. Quite like that one. And Can Utility in the Coastliners is another strong piece of music. And once again, Steve Hackett performs it particularly well in his concerts. I love the album. This could be number 1 on another day. At this particular moment I'm looking at it, it is number 2. Best track for me, I believe, is Watcher of the Skies, just for that building of the momentum. I think it's absolutely magnificent. No bad songs, particularly here. I wouldn't want any alterations made to this one. It's good as it is. I like it. Number 2, Foxtrot. So, at number 1, have you guessed it? It's Selling England by the Pound. It was a superb album, released in 1973. It got chart success, number 3 in the UK. I absolutely love this album. We kick off with Gabriel's Dancing with the Moonlight Night, his interpretation of that. I Know What I Like in Your Wardrobe, a minor hit, an appearance on Top of the Pops. Firth of Fifth, that piano opening, you could be sitting at a piano recital. It's magnificent, it really is. Tony Banks excelled with that piece of music. More Fool Me, Phil with a precursor to when he takes over as a vocalist with the group. Second side, The Battle of Epping Forest, the humorous one. There's some great lyrics in there, written by Peter Gabriel. After the Ordeal calms it all down, following on from The Battle of Epping Forest. Then we have the magnificent The Cinema Show, an absolute knockout track. You won't find one much better than that. And we end up with a reprise of Dancing with the Moonlight Night in the Isle of Plenty, where Gabriel's very, very clever supermarket names into the lyrics. It's quite interesting to note that so many now no longer exist. So there's a little piece of supermarket history in there. What can you say about this album? It is recognised as one of the top 3 prog rock albums of all time. Feel free to disagree in the comments below, but that's my opinion of it. I would have it in any list. Best track, simple for me. Firth of Fifth, absolutely beautiful piece of music. The opening piano, the gorgeous guitar from Steve Hackett halfway through. I can do without More Fool Me. I'm sorry, Phil, it was not a favourite of mine. Never quite understood why it appeared in there, and it's one that I often skip when I'm listening to it. There you have it, at number 1 from 1973. The best ranked album in the particular time of the Genesis albums of the 70s, Selling England by the Pound. Now, I hope you've enjoyed this ranking video today. I've had a lot of fun putting it together and revisiting the albums and the tracks. I've had to just glance down at my notes because my memory's absolutely awful. So, love all of the albums. There's really, there's not one that I would say that I don't like. It's just that there's some that I like a little bit more, and that, as we sit in today, that's how I would rank the Genesis albums from 1970s. If you disagree, feel free to add any comments down below. I'd love to get your points of view. I'd love for you to tell me where you disagree. That would be absolutely fine. I hope you've enjoyed watching this video of the Genesis ranked albums from 1970s. If you have, it would be lovely if you could like the video, share it on your social media networks, give it a thumbs up, and I would be absolutely honoured if you would consider subscribing to my channel. It really helps. As I say, we're approaching 200 subscribers now, and it'd be nice to get there within the next week. We have another video here now that features the number one from my rundown today, as well as a couple of other albums, and it's all about getting into progressive rock and the first three albums that I believe you should be listening to. I think you'd be very interested to watch the video, and I'll see you across there. Other than that, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you soon.